The sun rose gently over the hills, casting a warm golden light across the land. From every direction, people began to gather. They came slowly, at first one by one. Families, friends, the sick, the curious. But soon, the numbers began to grow. They had heard about him. They had heard about the miracles, the healing, the power in his words. And something inside them told them they needed to see him for themselves. So they walked long distances, leaving behind their homes, their work, their daily lives, just to be near Jesus. And before long, what began as a small group turned into thousands. Jesus led them away from the crowded cities, into a quiet, open place, a place where the land stretched far and wide, where there were no markets, no shops, no easy way to find food. It was meant to be a place of rest, but the people followed him there anyway. They didn't care about comfort. They didn't care about distance. They just wanted to be near him. And when Jesus saw them, he didn't turn them away. Jesus looked at the crowd before him, not as a number, but as individuals, each person with a story, each person with a need. Some were sick, some were tired, some were searching for hope. And as he looked at them, his heart was moved with deep compassion. So he welcomed them. He spoke to them. He healed the sick. He gave them what their hearts were longing for. And they stayed, listening to every word. The hours passed quietly. The sun moved slowly across the sky, from bright morning to warm afternoon. Still, no one left. They were drawn in by his presence. Every word he spoke carried meaning. Every moment felt important. But as the day went on, something began to change. The people grew. Tired, and hunger slowly began to set in. The disciples began to notice. They looked at the crowd, thousands of people, far from any town, with no food in sight. Concern filled their hearts, so they came to Jesus and said, "This is a remote place, and it's already getting late. Send the people away, so they can go find something to eat." To them, it was the only logical solution. But Jesus responded in a way they did not expect. He looked at them calmly and said, "You give them something to eat." For a moment, everything fell still. The disciples looked at each other, confused. How could they possibly feed this many people? It didn't make sense. What he was asking seemed impossible. They began to search among the crowd, looking, hoping, but there was almost nothing. Then finally, they found a young boy. He had something small, 5 loaves of bread and a fish. It was all he had, and compared to the crowd, it felt like nothing. They brought the boy's food to Jesus, standing there, holding something so small, in front of something so big. Thousands of people waiting, thousands of empty stomachs. It didn't add up. It wasn't enough. But still, they placed it in his hands. Jesus told the people to sit down. Groups formed across the grass, rows upon rows of people, waiting. Watching. Not fully understanding what was about to happen. Then Jesus took the bread into his hands and looked up toward heaven. He gave thanks. Calmly. Peacefully. Not in panic, not in doubt, but in complete confidence. As if what they had was already enough. As if the miracle had already begun. He broke the bread and gave it to the disciples. They began to pass it out, one person, then another, then another. But something strange was happening. The food was not running out. It kept coming. The crowd began to eat, not just a small bite, but enough to satisfy their hunger. Children ate, parents ate, everyone ate. The fear of not having enough turned into amazement because somehow there was more than enough for everyone. When everyone had finished eating, the disciples went round collecting what remained, and what they found was beyond belief. 12 baskets full, more than what they started with. From something so small came something so great. The people stood in silence, taking in what they had just witnessed. What once seemed impossible had become real before their eyes, and in that moment, they understood something powerful. What you have may seem small, insufficient, even insignificant. But when it is placed in the hands of Jesus, it becomes more than enough. Because with him, nothing is ever truly small.